Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Today, I have with me a fabulous queen who showed off her fashion and Irish charm when she competed on Drag Race UK Season 4 and UK vs. the World Season 2. I'm super excited for you all to get to know her better and learn more about her amazing journey in drag. We'll, of course, be talking all things Drag Race, and I'll be asking some of the amazing questions you all sent in. So please join me in welcoming the Northern Irish delusional diva herself, the stunning Jonbers Blonde.
Hi, Alan! Hi, babe! How
Hi!
you doing, UK? Thanks so much for having me on.
You look great. You look great. It looks like, someone may have taken the what's it called? The substance.
The substance well, I've also stopped drinking so much, so that helps.
No, you look absolutely fabulous. Like you've got obviously the blonde, the signature style, and in your honor, being Irish and everything, I am wearing green for you today.
Oh, well, thank you. Is that foliage in the background for me, or is it just...
That also was also for you, obviously. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so lovely to have you on. I'm so excited when you agreed to come on and everything. I've been following you for ages. I loved you on your season. You were such like a firecracker on your season. I was really excited to see you back on UK versus the World when you came back on.
Oh, thank you so much. Honestly, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for speaking to me and giving us all a platform. You know what you've done and what you do is incredible, and I know you do it for the love of it as well, and it really shows in your work. So thank you so much for taking the time out
Oh,
of your day.
no, thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, this is like a passion project. I absolutely love doing it. It's so cool to speak to the queens and everything.
I I think it's nice to, well, it's always nice to congratulate somebody whenever that you can see how much hard work they put into it. And also you see the passion side of it as well, which is very clear. So
Oh.
congratulations.
Well, thank you to you too. I mean, I'm just someone on YouTube. You're like an international drag star, so you know.
Well, and I wouldn't go that, but so some people wouldn't say that, but
And I mean, we'll get onto this in a moment, but obviously one of the biggest achievements I think people will know from my channel at least is obviously Drag Race. But
yes.
before we dive into that part of it, I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about Jonbers, where you start in terms of where your drag came from, and then what led to then the name Jonbers Blonde, because there's been a lot of questions about where the name comes from.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's like I'm happy to finally clear this all up. I started drag when I was 16 in Belfast. It's like 16, 17. And basically I was working a job where I was working as a hairdresser, a trainee hairdresser, and it was no pay at all, no pay at all. And around that time, Belfast drag, can I just say, has always been incredible. It is one of the if you go to Belfast or get a chance or anyone gets a chance to go to Belfast, please do check out the drag in Belfast. It's always been great and it continues to be great. And some of the pillars of the community there, Trudy Scrumptious, Teddy Von Tramp, Tina Legs Tantrum, Lady Portia de Monte, were the leaders of the pack. And there used to be a Sunday bingo show, which I'm talking, it was like a piece of theater. And it was when I first seen it, it was the first time that I'd seen something. I'd always loved the idea of being a pop star. I can carry a tune now because I've learned, but back then couldn't sing, dance, anything. But it was a way to become a pop star. It was a way to you release that sort of energy of wanting to be on stage and being Britney Spears or whoever it could be. And so I was called Paris Hilltown because there's a town near me called Hilltown, and I was obsessed. Everyone called me Paris because my hair was bleached blonde and I wore about 8 bottles of fake tan mixed together. It's a very different time. And then I moved to then a few years later I moved to London and I stopped drag and I really missed it. So my friend and I sat down. Here comes the Jumper story. To tie yourself in. And we sat down and we were kind of going through a lot of names because I didn't want to be Paris Hilltown. And I was just like, it was so niche, and I was just like, it doesn't, there's one Paris. We don't need another one. And so so we were going through things, and I genuinely am. I'm a huge fan of true crime. I am a huge fan of mysteries and things like that. And the name John Bonet kept up. Me and my best friend were always obsessed with the story of John Bonet Ramsey. And not in any sort of gruesome way or anything, but we kind of like were picking a name where it was kind of a name that was very distinctive, very like who would she be now if she grew up? Like, and in my head, I was like, she'd be a fashion model, she'd be like really chic, like major fashion model in my head. Like, oh, and then the blonde part came from the fact of I've always been obsessed with iconic blondes. From I was a kid, I was obsessed with Marilyn Monroe because my grandmother was, Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, like Christina Aguilera. The early 2000s, like, was a very blonde. Lindsay Lohan was blonde from a like it was a very blonde period. And then I also my love of like 1940s, 1950s blondes. So JonBenet Blonde was my original name starting out in drag, and it's very like there's still things out there. There's interviews, things like that. With my name JonBenet. But so I always called myself JonBenet, but everyone always called me Jonbers. I think there was one time that I was staying with my friend's dad in Bristol, and I came down the stairs, and he like said he was like, "Here, Jonbers, going out looking like that, you get yourself good seeing too." Because basically I was a slag, and ever since that, like, and then I remember it really stuck. I used to do Glastonbury. We used to do this thing called NYC Download. It still goes on, and everyone just called me Jonbers, and it just sort of stuck from there. And then yeah, also when I was applying, I applied for Drag Race with the name JonBenet, and I kind of got murmurs of like, we think, that a sort of a name change or a different name might sort of didn't come from anyone specific. I'm not saying anyone specific, but there was murmurs of like this, and it also came internally from my friends. They were like, "Do you think it could be your name? Like, it is the BBC." And then got there, and then Ruta told me she hated my name. But then also, I was just like, she was just kind of like, it's hard to say, and I was like, it's two plurals, like, you know what I mean? John Burrs, you know what I mean? It's like John is cold, John Burrs. I've taken up half the time with that story.
No, it's a great story. I read online, I think in like your drag race wiki bio said something about your friend's dad's when you come downstairs. Like I read that bit, but
Yeah.
what I was curious about was the fact that what was the time then between you changing your name from JonBenet to Jonbers, and then when Drag Race came and like Ru basically said he hated your name? Like how long was that transition?
I changed my name maybe 4 months before I auditioned for Drag Race, and then got on.
Right. So it was quite a new thing then, your name.
It was quite a new thing. Yeah, it was quite a new thing. Oh, and it was because also I randomly, like, we were talking about a name change, and then a lot of people were like, "We have to cancel your gig. We can't." There was a full Mumsnet page on me about like, "How dare she have this name? Like, why would you have this name?" Instead of like, first of all, I have never dressed up as John Benet Ramsey. I have never deluded who she was as a person. It is my interpretation, was always my interpretation of, but in no way was I ever disrespectful, or never really did I talk about the story of John Benet Ramsey when I was on stage, or did I have a John Benet Ramsey number where I know some queens did. Um, so I never was disrespectful in that way. For me, it was a respect thing. It was kind of honoring her. Um, and so yeah, so a lot of gigs were just like we can't. So that's what initiated the foot. That was like solidified. I should change it.
So obviously, yeah, let's get into Drag Race itself because we've kind of talked about it
Sure.
now. So you
Yeah.
mentioned you auditioned. Had you auditioned for previous UK seasons?
Yes, I definitely auditioned for. But listen, I think a lot of people don't tell the truth about this sort of stuff. I auditioned for season one. Actually, the only one I didn't audition for was season three.
So walking through the door on, on your first ever season and everything, who did you know anyone from the cast in terms of you knew
Yeah.
of them or you had personal relationship with them?
Not everybody. I had a personal relationship with LaPhil, Just May, Cheddar I'd worked with a few times because the troupe that I was in would work with Family Gorgeous quite a lot. And who else did I knew Baby. I knew Baby from a few brunches. Um Pixie I knew of but didn't know personally. Danny I knew of, didn't know personally. Dakota I'd worked with a few times. Copper I didn't know. Sminty, I didn't know. I'm sorry, I'm going through everybody. Most I didn't like. I would say 50-50. There you go. There's a short answer.
It's fine. There's a Patreon version,
I'm
which is like the longer.
long-winded. Listen. It's like I'm Dorit Kemsley. I'm long-winded.
That's fine. It's fine. I can. This can be the Patreon version. That could be the Express version. It's fine.
Yeah. Listen, tell me if you want the shorthand Kathy Hilton answer.
Well, on season 4, because obviously you were a finalist, so congratulations. A little bit late on that, but
Yes.
congrats for that.
Thank you so much.
You were obviously there for every episode, so we can't go through every episode because otherwise we'd be here until Christmas.
Right.
So what I was think would be interesting is perhaps can you maybe tell me what is like? Can you tell me your favorite episode and your least favorite episode from season 4 and why?
Yeah. Yeah. Least favorite. We'll start with least favorite. We'll start with the thorn first. My least favorite really is the girl group challenge. And not because of anybody else, because of me. Because the girl group is what I do. It's what I had done beforehand. I was in it in a drag troupe. Um, but the when we performed it, I'll never forget the feeling. I remember walking on stage, standing in that formation as we walk on, and in my head, I just went, I don't know any of this. I just went completely blank because even though we'd done the runway before, like we had one episode before where we'd done the runway, but we hadn't performed on the stage before. And it was a fully different story. And I just remember looking at the judges and being like, and I remember the beeps going off, and I just blanked. And I in that moment, I was like, I'm gonna be in the bottom. I knew hands down, I was in the bottom. And for me, I really let myself down. My favorite episode, musical. It would be a tie. It would be a tie between the musical and the finale because the musical honestly was I was so happy to get that part because I was just like I really need a moment here to let people know that I can do what I say that I do. And it was just so much fun like and I like the getting and really like when you get the good critiques it's a feeling like no other, it really is. And they talked about the whole and the kissy kissy cuckoo. That was all improvised, and Rue specifically said to me, she was like, that's why she was like, that's why you're in the top, by the way. She was like, because you took the material, and she was like, you added it. She was like, it's not about adding extra lines, it's about that characterization. What is the character? What will the character do? And then the finale, and I just felt so excited for the top 4 and for the other girls. And I knew that I wasn't going to win, but I was just so excited for us all to have this moment because I know a lot of people are going to say I didn't deserve it, but I did deserve it. I worked really, really hard my entire life to get to that point, and I was just like, I do deserve this moment. Like I've put the work in, and I'm so happy for all of us. So even though everybody, I knew I wasn't going to win. Okay.
Well, I know it's very refreshing that you're honest. I think obviously looking at the track record, maybe it was obvious you probably weren't going to win compared to someone like Danny
No,
or
it was
Cheddar.
clearly obvious.
But
Yeah.
what I liked about you on the show was your whole thing was people said you were delusional, but you were you knew that you were being delusional. I liked that you knew you were being like that. You were very self-aware, I thought. So
Yes. Listen, also, you have to be your biggest champion. Otherwise, who is?
well, one of the moments which you mentioned was one of my favorite moments from you. Snatch Game is one, but we'll talk about that in a second. But just going back to what you said, the bird lady that you did You were, I remember I screamed. You were so unhinged and like it was just
No, the funny thing was as well that I don't know. I actually don't know if I've ever said this. But everyone knows you did the runway twice. I'm not saying anything unheard of here. But so obviously we filmed it on the same day as the challenge as the runway, and when because I was like I need to make myself look crooked. Like I look, let's be real, my makeup was shite on season 4. I'm very aware of that. But I know I'm not delusional, everybody. I know my makeup was terrible. But that I was like, I want to go full on unhinged. Like I want to look like a squash bird. Do you know what I mean? And and I blacked out my teeth and everything. So when I went to do the runway, I walked the runway and I smiled at the end and I came back and the floor manager came up and was like, "Is your teeth meant to be black?" I was like, no, not one queen, not one said a single thing to me. Not one.
sabotage.
Sabotage. I mean, obviously everyone's worried about themselves, but we're all checking ourselves in the mirror before we go on. Somebody could have said something. I had full blackout teeth. Like full, they were like, it was full black.
That's so
And
funny.
I remember the judges looking at me and being like, hmm. I was like, oh, because it was the time, it was with the music. So I was like, oh, oh my God. I was just like, no, it wasn't meant to be like, it's not meant to be like this.
One of the things that's not for the faint-hearted as well, which I kind of briefly touched on, was Snatch Game. So
Yeah.
I loved yours. I thought you and Snatch Game were so funny. You really nailed the challenge of if RuPaul tells you to do something, do it because it's within your best interest.
Yeah. Because I was full set on Enya. And it's what I done on my audition tape. So, I mean, maybe that's saying something. Maybe she did watch it and was like, I think you should do something different.
One of the things I
But
wanted to ask about though was there were I think some people I thought it was really funny and everything, but there were some people, and I'm sure you're aware of this, who said, well, it's not fair to make someone do a stereotypical, because you effectively you did a stereotypical Irish woman, I guess, like as a kind of an embodiment of Ireland.
I wouldn't say stereotypical, like, well, I get a characterization,
Characterization, yeah, yeah, yeah.
a character, a cartoonism. But listen, I think if you can't after, listen, Irish people are the best crack. Do you know what I mean? And we're absolutely mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean that in the best possible way. We are mad crack. You know what I mean? So I've known women like that. You know what I mean? Like, genuinely. And they are unhinged, and I love it. I honestly like because a lot of people are asking me why did you change because you didn't have to, and I was like because I genuinely was like I enjoy it. Like I hadn't even thought of that, and like because in my head I was just like I want to do somebody that's kind of known or whatever, and to me at that point, also at that point there wasn't that many people that had done that sort of thing where it is a fictional character, but I was just like I know I can make this funny. I know I can make it a bit unhinged, and there was parts of it that you did not see that were completely unhinged, which I was like, oh, I wish I put that in because it was really fun. Like I literally I flew over the I like got on top of the desk and like was Irish dancing and was like tap dancing and like then jumped off and was like rolling around. I was like, oh, I wish I'd shown that. I remember Rue just being like, yeah, she's really on the floor. She's like, okay. But I think it was a connotation of like show us the bag of snakes move. I think that's what it was. There was that question that show us a bag of snakes. My answer was I literally got up and oh, it was because Black Pepper didn't get up and said something to do with the dance move and didn't get up and do it or like wouldn't do it. And so Rue was like, "Can you please show us?" And so I was like, "Absolutely," and got and away I went. Diddle, diddle, diddle. It's probably the best. Because I actually am now in Irish dancing lessons, so it probably for the best that it wasn't aired.
That's an interesting story. I love hearing when people tell us like things that didn't make the cut, and like you can only imagine what it must have been like doing that in probably a silent room because there's no sound effects and no music. It's just you and
Yes.
RuPaul.
Absolute silence. I remember turning because it was AJ and Tess Daly. And actually AJ and I chatted to AJ about it before. She was like, I was like, was that mad? And she was like, yeah, that was choice. That was choice.
Well, so you mentioned about speaking to AJ and stuff. One of the things I noticed when I was sort of like doing a little bit of research and looking into, looking at some of the stuff to do with you and the season was there was a couple of things on, I think it was on maybe the wiki or something like that. It mentioned that you had been obviously working for, like you said, you've been around the block and you've worked with a lot of people. And one of the groups I believe you worked with was Years and Years with Ollie Alexander, and he was then a guest judge on one of the episodes.
Right.
And one of the other big things is that I think it might have been after the show rather than before, but there was pictures of you and Alan Carr holding
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
So, and people thought you were dating or whatever. So then it made me think,
I
oh,
know.
so can you tell me about that?
I can indeed. Basically, so it was after it that the it was straight after Drag Race that had been filmed, maybe a few months. My friends were doing a show at Soho Theatre, and so I was invited to. And as I went to as I sat down in my row, and as I sat down and was like having a little glass of prosecco and talking to my friends, I turned to my right. And who is walking towards me to sit beside me? Only Alan. No, Alan had never seen me out of drag. Remember, Alan had not seen me out of, Alan had only seen me in drag. So, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be funny. So I took he sat down and said hello, and I went, hiya. And he was like, hello. And I was like, you know who I am? And he was like, no. And I was like, you've just filmed an entire season of Drag Race with me? And he was just like, no. And so so then we went out after, and we both had a few drinks, and we were walking to go to Soho House or something like that. And no, by the way, this was obviously just taken by like people in the street, like there was no paps or anything like that. And I'm literally, the reason why we're holding hands is just to hold ourselves up because we had a few. It was a Mac had sponsored it, and when Mac sponsors stuff, they like to free pour, babes, free pour. And obviously, like I was a funny, and we were just like chat. We didn't chat about Drag Race at all, everybody, because we were like, we should not chat about that because like conflict of interest. It would be better not to chat about that. And also Alan would get in trouble. So we didn't we just chat about everything else and about like we chatted about the show that we've been to see my friends Bourgeois and Maurice and just about like my general chat. And we had a lot of friends in common. So yeah, that's the story, everybody. That's not very interesting at all.
So no like romantic entanglements.
Absolutely not. No, none like that at all.
Because I wondered maybe if you were friends beforehand, because it said that you'd worked with like Ollie Alexander and I think there was
No.
someone else it said that you might. So I was wondering how that felt when being like judged by someone who you may have known.
Right. I'm trying to think who else was on the. Oh, I'd met John and Lumley before because I was in the Ab Fab movie, and I'd worked with Joanna and Jennifer Saunders on a Pride event where we all had to be Patsy and Eddie. I'd met, but very briefly, like it was a very brief thing. It was the time that Ab Fab movie came out. Yeah, Ollie I'd worked with a few times. I knew him from like going out. He came to a club night that I used to manage called Savage. That was a really big, great queer night. And he would always come to that. And yeah, and then Melby I hadn't met before, but obviously I'd worked with Melanie C. And been to a few I've been to the Spice Girls concert. Listen, that's one of the things that I think is tricky with it. Like everybody always, one thing that was constantly brought up was about name dropping. And I was like, I'm genuinely not like, I know it sounds like such a dickhead move, but it's genuinely just saying what I've done. Like if somebody says what you've done, who have you worked with, it's just I've just been very lucky. You know what I mean? I don't think I don't think anybody should be ashamed of their achievements. Um, uh, but yeah, that there's always going to be it's always going to be for me going into that. It's always going to be tricky because I've been lucky. Oh, I live in London, and I get to go to some of these parties. You just always run into people, or there's always people around, and I'm fun.
I think yeah, you had this amazing run on your original season, which I think was so nice. And although you kind of said you knew you weren't going to win, I was like you would. I always thought you're definitely going to be on an All Stars. If they do a UK All Stars and they had done one a season before the Versus, I was like,
Yeah,
I definitely think Jonbers because she was a finalist. Then you got
right.
announced on UK versus the World season two. So what was that like getting that call and finding out, because I assume they rang and said, do you want to do it? And what was your response?
It was. I mean, I hesitated for a minute. I'm not gonna lie. Because it was very, very, very soon after my season had aired, and I mean immediately after. And so I listen. I love doing that show. I have some of my best memories. The team that work on that show are incredible. I felt like I had grown since I'd been on. It had been 7 months or so, or 8 months since filming. And even then, I felt like I feel like I mean, I think I showed out like how I looked and everything at the finale of four. And I think I had a bit of a demeanor. I don't think I was mentally in the right place. And I don't think looking back, I probably shouldn't have done it. Um, but I really wanted to do it because I love Drag Race so much. I love being there, and I really wanted to do it. I didn't want to say no. You know what I mean? And the getting ready process is one of my favorite things in the entire world, where I got another chance to show a little bit of growth, and just to have, I met some incredible. I wouldn't have got my friendship with Hannah Conda, or met Marina, or or even got a better relationship with Tia, or Gothy and Teresa. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I got sent home. Same with the game. You
Well, I was
know?
going to ask you about that because unfortunately, it was a bit of a short run or you were 3 episodes you were there, well, including the
Yeah.
finale, but 3 actual episodes.
Yes.
How did that feel? Because obviously that was part of your storyline that you felt like, because I do feel like you were maybe unfairly eliminated, I think, in my personal opinion. I don't know if
Yeah.
that helps, but I personally was very
Thank you.
surprised that you got eliminated. Like, genuinely, I was gagged when you got eliminated.
Yeah.
What did that feel like
Thank you.
then when you got eliminated?
I was heartbroken. I genuinely was heartbroken. Like I put a lot of money into my package. I really not only did I put a lot of money into my package, I'd worked on myself about what challenges could come up, about my snatch game. I really put myself through my paces to be like, just don't, because Rue had said that to me as well. And she was like, sometimes I feel like you've put a bit more effort into your runways as opposed to the effort into, and that really made me think about things. And looking back, I 100% agree on it. So what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? There's no point in being bitter about anything. It's the way the cookie crumbled. I was disappointed, absolutely, but you move. We move.
So I think you've just got to, you got to, it's a good attitude to have and sort of, you've got to just kind of move on with it.
Yeah, at the time I was devastated. I'll be very real. I cried non-stop. I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. But I think it's good. I think it's good to cry and release it. I was so. I think I was just. I was so let down. I was let down in myself. You know what I mean? I was let down in myself more than anybody. I wasn't angry at anybody. I think the things were said in the reunion about me being bitter. I certainly wasn't bitter. I don't like it when people say things were a bit two-faced. You know what I mean? Where they'll say one thing to your face and then they'll say another thing behind your back whenever you're gone. You know what I mean? And because I'm not like that at all. It's TV world. At the end of the day, it's reality TV. We're all making reality TV. We've got to say say what you say and do what you do, you know. Me personally, I'm not like that.
Well, that was actually one of the
I'll
things.
say it to your face.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask you about because I thought the reunion on, and I'm glad they did a reunion because I love reunion episodes. So I was going to ask, so on your original season and on All Stars, I felt like the reason I really liked you was because you were not afraid to necessarily speak your mind, and be kind of, I'm not going to say like a villain because that's not the right word, but kind of giving some drama. And at the reunion, obviously one of the big things was you being sent home by Scarlet. So, and then obviously, and we'll get on to Tia in a second, but with Scarlet, I was just curious, what is your relationship like with Scarlet and what was it like at the time? Were you genuinely annoyed or not?
I was I was a bit confused. Like the whole thing was a bit confusing to me because it was like flip-flopping. And honestly, when I was having the chat with her, it genuinely was like she couldn't have been nicer about me and about um like she was basically told me I was her competition. You know what I mean? We are, and I do feel like we and everybody in the workroom, and a lot of people were always saying, "We're like, God, you two are so similar. God, you two are so similar. God, you." So you know what I mean? Like, if somebody looks like you're, you know, getting comparisons, um, you're gonna get rid of that person. You know what I mean? It was just the narrative that was said that about like, well, I'm gonna get rid of the good competition. But then when I watched, because obviously didn't see what all the other queens were saying, as I was having the chats, and the fact that every single queen that was there said that they would keep me, and that made me feel really, really, you know. And it wasn't really until like it wasn't because we didn't see each other then until we went on tour. So it was so nice then when we did go on tour that I could sit and I felt like because I really didn't feel a part of that group. If I'm really being honest, I feel like looking back now, if I'm really being honest, I feel like I didn't deserve to be there. Because I wasn't as followed and because people do put that in your head, not the queens, but the whole, you know, the whole ethos of, but also myself, you know what I mean? Um, Now looking back, I did deserve to be there. Now, like, you know what I mean? Like me, I definitely should have been there. But and what a cast to be involved with. You know what I mean? Like such an incredible cast. But my relationship with Scarlett now is great. Like we had such a great time on tour. And it was always me, Hannah, and Scarlett last. We were always the last ones left in Sky Lounge, as we like to call it. And yeah, we do. We have I really, really I have a lot of time for Scarlett. And she did what she had to do. You know what I mean? As I said, it's a reality TV show, you know.
Yeah, and I'm glad you
And there was money this time. There was actually money this time.
I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you did deserve because I was when you said I didn't deserve, you definitely did deserve to be there. You were a contender, and
Yeah,
that
I think what I mean, me and my mindset, like being in that room, I was looking around and being like at that time, and I think it was just, you know, putting a bravado on. But now I'm just like, no, I 100%.
going back to the reunion for a second. So one of the other people I wanted to pick up on because you talked about Scarlett, and I assumed you two obviously are cool now. The other person I
Yeah.
was kind of curious about was Tia because obviously it's a little bit different because you didn't necessarily have a relationship with Tia directly from Drag Race, but you did with her ex Pixie Polite, who was on your season, and you and
Yeah.
Pixie had some moments, you know, on your original season. And at the reunion, I got the impression because Tia said they don't get on, like my ex and Jonbers don't get on, and like I'm wary of Jonbers because of that. I got the impression that maybe there was some tension between you two, so I was just wondering if you can talk about that.
If I'm really honest, it's kind of the one thing that I don't want to talk about because it's been brought up so many times, and genuine, I can genuinely say there is genuine no problem at all. I am friends with like Tia. Tia was one of the most supportive people on me when I was on four, and the reason why I don't want to bring it up anymore is because there really isn't anything to say. We all Pixie and I are very supportive of each other, and we do text each other. Pixie is one of the one people that will reach out, you know, all the time, as Tia is. I respect them both as people and performers. genuinely, I like it's just one of those things that like you know what? It's one of those things of there was tension at a time because you know what? Guess what? Life it happens. You know what I mean? Sometimes everybody isn't going to get on, whether somebody's in the right frame of mind or not. It could have been me, it could have been them, but you move on and you have to, but the whole thing of like it being, and I know you have to ask because obviously, it is one of those things, but it's really just not a thing. Like we're all, I've seen Tia not that long ago, actually, at the Work the World. And when we do see each other, it's so lovely. You know what I mean? And Pixie is one of the ones that in our group chat, and we still have a season 4 group chat, and Pixie is very active about making sure that we like saying, should we all go for lunch? Is anybody coming to London? The London girls, should we get together? Or like whoever's in town, So genuinely, absolutely no beef at all. Also, we're all in our 30s. You know what I mean? There's no time for that. There's no time for petty nonsense anymore. It's all drag. It's all drag.
That's what I was kind of curious about because I assumed you two are cool now because
Yeah.
I've interviewed Pixie and Tia was also kind of there like she was staying with Pixie at the time so she was also sort of in the interview. They're both I love them both. They're so fun. So I always assumed that maybe those emotions and that like tension, whatever you want to call it, was true at that specific point in time, but it wasn't something that you
Yeah.
take into your personal life like for the rest of your life. One of the
For
things
those
I wanted to ask about, though, to do with those two, because it's another thing I think a lot of some people in the comment in the questions for you asked about this. I wanted to ask you.
uh,
So, back when you were on season 4, your original season, at the crowning event, which you had your iconic screaming, moment, which was so fun.
yeah. Woo!
Danny Beard.
There was this huge rumor that came about that apparently Pixie made you cry, not in
No,
that
not
moment,
true.
but which I assumed. I
I did
actually,
cry. I'll clear this up. No problem at all. I did cry and I have a complete breakdown because it was not Pixie. It was a few different people, but they knew what they were doing, and also it was one of the hosts as well who was not a very good host and was making fun of me while I was answering questions. And I did not appreciate it at all. And I just felt in that moment, I was like, this is a very celebratory moment. And yeah, it was very upsetting. I was just like, I couldn't, I couldn't, I just got, I am genuinely a very emotional person. And I was just completely upset. There was a few people in the audience, participants of Drag Race UK, from my season, and I know it was not Pixie, and it was to do with the host asking, basically making fun of the way that I speak.
oh yeah, because I asked because I interviewed Pixie right after the season came out, like quite soon
Yeah,
after,
I
and it
remember
was
it. Yeah.
and she showed a text message from you where it was like, no, it wasn't Pixie, it was other people, particularly one. So
Yeah.
can you say who the one is?
No, I don't because they're so irrelevant right now. So
Oh, so is it someone, as in when you say irrelevant, is this someone from your cast who you genuinely still don't get on with, or is this
it's
you
not about
cleared?
getting on. It's about moving on. Like
Right,
that's who
okay.
that person wants to be. That's their choice. I don't have space for people like that. Like I would never act like that towards somebody else. But it wasn't the first time of their behavior, and it certainly it hasn't been the last from what I've seen online. Yeah, there's your tea. There's your tea.
Was
But
it
whatever, you know what I mean?
so? Am I right in thinking then that there's at least one person maybe on your cast that you don't get on with, but you get on with everyone else, or is it very much
Oh,
like,
listen, no, no, no. I will always be like, I am gracious in myself that if we were all in a room, I can get on with everybody, but I certainly don't have to spend time with you.
that's fair? I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
there are people that you work with. It's like summer camp. You're not always friends with people that you
Yeah,
work with at summer camp. So,
exactly,
you know.
exactly. It's just, some people have their way of. Listen, everyone's different. Everyone is different, and everyone has their own ways. It's just I. I would never be like that. Like that's just it's just not it's not my kind of people.
Well, I'm sure there'll be wild
And
speculation as to who you're
also,
speaking about. So, you know.
yeah. People can do whatever they want. I'm also, as Donna Preston said in Celebrity Big Brother, it's not that deep. It's not that deep.
No, it's true. I think we would just love a bit of tea, but it's also interesting hearing about these back because I remember when I saw this rumor about Pixie, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. And I'm sure I was like thinking, I'm sure there was something more to it than that. And that's kind of what Pixie said. So do you
Yeah,
mean it was important that Pixie had that? Like when I talked to her on the interview, I put that clip up straight away to kind of clarify that that wasn't true.
yeah. I think people would be surprised. It wasn't just one person, by the way, it was a few. And I think people would be very surprised about one of the people that was involved in it. And not such a darling, not such a little darling.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure not. Yeah, especially. I'm assuming also was alcohol consumed at this event as well. So,
Oh, everybody was drunk. Everybody was drunk. Everybody was drunk.
well,
Like this is the thing. Like everyone kept on putting saying that I was drunk. I'm like, we were all drunk. Everyone was drunk. There was not one person that wasn't drunk.
I think that's what kind of what Pixie said as well. You know, Pixie was like, at these events, people have a drink and maybe they say things they wouldn't normally say, or people.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
but the other thing is that like there also has to be a reason why I would trigger to be crying. You know what I mean? Like, there's and also by the way, this as I've said, it wasn't just coming from the contestants. It was also coming from the host. Because we also came like afterwards we came off stage and we were all a bit like, what was that about? Why was it like to make fun of my accent? I don't think so.
yeah, that's weird. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Well, thank you for clarifying because that was one of the things I knew people were going to ask about it. So I thought it'd be
Yeah.
good for you to have a platform to be like, let's clarify that because I'm sure people
Yeah,
still
for
care
sure.
all these
Yeah,
years
because I
later.
do. I mean, like, listen, I'm not one to like, as everyone know, I'm not one to like get on social media and chat about everything. Um, but yeah, no, I just like, yeah, it's nice to get that clear out of the way. Like, but also, it's so in the past. You know what I mean? It's not. I certainly don't go to sleep thinking about it, and I certainly don't wake up thinking about it. Like, it's something that is so far away from me.
Well, while we're talking about things of clearing things up, there was one other like sort of point I thought let's put it in now so we can talk about it. So this is actually nothing necessarily to do with Drag Race. This is to do with you, sort of you and your drag, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
So in slightly more recent years, I think you've been on a bit more of like kind of transformation fitness journey, but also your makeup and like your face has changed quite a bit, as I'm sure people can see between your season and now. So there was a huge amount of speculation at one point because there was this one photo that you posted where you looked very different. And I think people accused you of using filters or having cosmetic surgery. And then
The
you,
one was the one that I was out of drag.
yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
I remember.
I remember seeing it because I remember I also thought she's taken or he's taken the substance because it was
Right.
quite different. But I mean, you looked great. Like I was jealous. I was like, I wish I looked like that. But it was very different. I remember you did a video where you like a live video where you basically took like a wipe and you were showing that there was no. I was wondering if you could talk about that side of it and like what caused the change.
I think I mean for as far as I was aware, I was very clear that I was about my plastic surgery journey and about that I have had my nose done. I have listen. We've all had fillers and bits and bobs done. And if people that say that they haven't, they're lying. Because every single drag queen that has been on Drag Race has been touched by an angel. Definitely more than a few. But I remember because I'd come back after I remember I mean I remember telling all the queens as well and because it was straight after Drag Race last year, yeah, last year that I went and I was having I had my nose done, and I had a lip lift. And I was very vocal about it and like I don't think I ever showed any like of the process or anything like that because it was just like I need to keep this for myself and I had a blepharoplasty but I had it was all basically it wasn't to do with anybody. I done it for me. Like I think plastic surgery is one of those things that you do it for yourself. I'm obsessed with skincare, plastic surgery, skin, everything like that. I always have been. Basically, I got Photoshop done for my face. That's basically what I done. is, you know what I mean? You wouldn't believe the amount of people that get it done. Like, it's refining. It's not anything major. Um, I, I would say it's nothing major. I have my full face on, but but it's I think plastic surgery is one of those things. It's each their own. Do what you want to do. But everybody was like AI, AI. But I think it was because it was so. I actually don't really post that lot on social media. I should be better, but for a really long time I was so afraid of posting out of drag and stuff because of people saying stuff. And also I've been on a fitness journey for a long time. I was drinking before the gigs as well, but until I'd done Drag Race, and then I was like, I need to stop drinking before the show and wait till after the show. And just the past while, I've just been taking care of myself, and I've been really enjoying going to the gym and just looking. I've had time. I'm not being in drag all the time. I have been having therapy and stuff for a bit, and I was that kind of dissecting of everybody always wants you in drag at a premiere or a thing, and I was just like, it's just me, like, and if you don't want me, you can't have me in drag, you know what I mean? Also, people not paying for that as well. Like, they're just like, no budget, no budget. Like, I've been trying to go back to Ireland a lot more and just spend time with my parents and just have a bit of a life that's not always involving putting on a pair putting on a pair of hooves. You
Well,
know?
I think you were. I always thought, you seemed very upfront about all of this stuff. Wasn't sure necessarily whether you'd had some, but I thought it doesn't matter whether she has had stuff done because it's her.
No,
I always think with everyone, it's your
people.
life, your choice. Like,
Yeah. But it was the people being like AI, definitely not her. And I think there was a couple of like, I've never been body shamed in my life, but people were just like, well, she wants to look like this, but actually she really should be doing this, or she's not really that fit, like as in like fitness wise, or like, oh, she's kind of still a bit tubby, like it's not her muscles aren't really that big. Like, and I was like, what is the world coming to from the queer community as well? And I was like, guys, direct your attention somewhere else, please. I'm not like, there's other massive other things going on in the world, whether you think that I'm fit enough or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, guys, come on,
no, that I can't stand that. I think there's so much else going on in the world that needs, pointing at it. But
Yeah,
people are always going to give their opinions, and what, like RuPaul says, what other people think is none of your business. So it's kind of just you have to ignore those people and just move on and kind of.
right. Oh, listen, let me tell you. Listen, Linda.
Well, going back to Drag Race just for a second, I just wanted to sort of wrap that up and say, I really enjoyed you on Drag Race, and obviously your time on UK versus the World was a bit shorter than what we would have hoped for, but I think you
Yeah, me
proved
too.
even in that
Listen, we
short.
need to campaign for Drag Race UK All Stars. I know that people won't want me there, but I want to be there.
Yeah. Well, we'll get on to that in a second because that's one of the questions which, spoiler alert, that's, we now people know. But
Yep.
I was really excited that you came back on. I think you should be so proud of the fact that you had such a glow up in a short space of time, kind of. I mean, not that you needed to glow up, but just sort of an
No,
evolution and
oh, listen, let's be very real here. My makeup was terrible on season 4. I was a bin fire. I said it on
no,
on
that's
the.
no,
Oh,
that's
no,
not
no, 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 no,
true.
no.
No.
No. I'm saying it's true. I know it's true. Hand reveal. I'm not wearing nails, kids. I'm very, very self-aware. I was melted bin fire, like a melted bin. But look at it. We've come so far.
Well, so the name of my channel is Drag Tea Served. So I was wondering if from Drag Race, is there something you can spill some tea on? Is there maybe a moment that happened that didn't get shown, or an interaction, or a fight, or something, a moment that happened that you wish had been shown or had been captured on camera that wasn't?
I don't really have any interest in that. I'll give you an interesting thing though, a bit of tea, is that I almost didn't do Drag Race because at the same time I was auditioning for a film with Ridley Scott, and I actually got the part. and I had been in costume fitting. I had my costumes fitted. I had been in makeup and hair. And I had all the screen tests for it. And it was a proper role in a film. And then because it was COVID, the production got put back. And I had scenes with the lead actor, and the lead actor is an Oscar winner, kids. And so that was so production got put back, and I then when so at the same time I obviously put my tape in for I auditioned for the film and Drag Race at the same time, and I got the call to say Drag Race was happening, and then the filming I was given the schedule for Drag Race, and then the Ridley Scott film came back and said these are the dates. And my filming dates were the last 2 days of the dates of Drag Race. And I was like, what is going? I was like, because I actually really want to do more acting in my life, in and out of drag. And I was kind of like, what's my choice here? Like, am I gonna do a Ridley Scott movie? By the way, Ridley Scott handpicked me, and like there was like it was a major moment for my life, and I really had a hard decision of being like, should I do Drag Race or should I do this? Because I knew the film would be up for Oscars and stuff, so I was like, what do I do? My role wasn't huge, but it was with the main actors, so I was like, I don't know if this could be cut or not. So I really had a hard time deciding whether to do Ridley Scott or Drag Race, and I chose Drag Race, obviously.
Well, we're glad that you did, because I really loved
Yeah,
you on
me
your season,
too.
and like it was so fun, and I guess maybe hopefully another opportunity with Ridley Scott or another Oscar winner.
Yeah, exactly. They can put out into the ethos, like you know what I mean. I'm still doing auditions. I love acting. I mean, let me tell you the self-tape moment. Like, I had to kiss somebody, pretend because it was COVID, so I had to pretend to kiss somebody on scene. That was the most excruciating moment of my having to film. You just have to go with it. But yeah, I had to kiss. I had to kiss a pretend person and then sit on their lap. And I think I hope I've deleted the video because it's tres embarrassing. Oh.
Oh, well, yeah, I can only imagine that would be the case. I mean, COVID was wild, and there was a lot of wild
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Zoom stuff having to go. So I'm conscious of time, so I don't want to keep it because I
Oh
need to
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. Sorry,
There's so many
we have been
questions we need to
talking.
get through. So I would love to
Yeah,
get onto my subscriber questions. So my
yeah,
lovely subscribers have submitted questions. There were so many questions, so I want to try and get through as many as possible.
yeah.
So
Sure. You want to do this, Kathy Hilton shorthand?
you could do whatever you want. My first question is from my Patreon member Sabato. So hi Sabato, and
Hi,
said,
Sabato.
the question is, what was your favorite and least favorite outfit? They said from any of the queens on your season, but that's too long. So I'm just going to say, what's your least favorite and favorite outfits of the ones that you wore?
Of mine, favorite outfit was the musicals, the Singing in the Rain. I loved that. I loved that. I felt incredible in that. Least favorite, I think I've said it. I think actually, I wish now looking back, I would have done the hairball different.
Okay,
Although a lot of people didn't get that reference. It was Rain Spencer, which was Princess Diana's thing. I wish I'd done something different underneath the coat, but characterization was not the choice for that. I should have done something a lot better.
fair enough. On this person says specifically on UK versus the world, but I'll open it up to both seasons. Which is the
Uh-huh.
girl that you're the closest with from both of your seasons?
Well, Just May, I've been friends with for many, many years. We are incredibly close. We speak every other day, and I love Just May dearly. And Danny Beard and I really are. I love and I'm so proud of Danny. Of in Celebrity Big Brother. I would say that they probably are my two closest people from Versus, and obviously I got to meet Hannah. I've done Hannah's podcast the other day, and we were just saying when you walk into a room and you immediately, even if you don't know somebody, that you sort of go straight towards. And Tia and I have a very good friendship now as well. Um, there's more than enough.
That-
I actually don't have a bad relationship with anybody because I'm not like that. I don't want to have bad relationships with people. Like I don't put, even if I've had a fallout with somebody or if there is tension, it doesn't last very long for me. Like I tend to move on very quickly.
Going back to something that you mentioned earlier, so you've already kind of answered the question. A lot of people, as you can imagine, said, would you ever go back for an All Stars or another versus the world or something a bit like Cheryl, formerly Cheryl Hole, did when she went back to Canada versus the world after already being on UK?
Yeah, listen, I love doing Drag Race. I really do. I love the getting ready process, the filming process, everything about it. I adore. 100%. I would definitely. I would love to go back. I'd love to go back.
You heard it here first, the producers, if you're watching, please. So thank you so much. Those were amazing questions. I want to just quickly get on to my quick fire round of questions. So it's 5 very silly little questions. Some are drag related, some are not. So it's kind of just first thing that comes to your mind, like first answer straight away. The Kathy Hilton answer.
Right, got
it. So the first question is lipstick or lip gloss?
Lipstick.
Yes or no, pineapple on pizza?
I say yes. I enjoy it. And burn me, burn me.
Favorite emoji?
Oh, the one that does this.
Cocktail or champagne?
Cocktail. Vodka martini with a twist. Immediately.
And can you summarize your experience on Drag Race in one word?
Memorable.
I thought you were going to say, how are you? But with hyphens.
Hey, but if you know, if I could have said that, then if you're going to break the rules in your own podcast, well, I'd just make it one long thing and it'll be like, how are you?
Thank you so much for being on. It was such a pleasure speaking to you. It was so.
And you know, thank you so much for your time. I know we've had a time, so good luck editing.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity. So, is there anything you'd like to talk about? Like, where can people find you on social media? And is there any like upcoming projects you want to talk about? Anything exciting going on in the world of Jonbers?
I'm currently writing up a new one woman show that'll come out later this year. For now, I have as we all know, Kylie Minogue is going on tour, and I'm celebrating that by doing a night at the Divine in East London with Astina Mandela from season 2 of Drag Race UK. We're going to be celebrating Kylie Minogue on the 23rd of May. So get your tickets on Out Savvy, and you can find me also on Instagram that I barely use. I am going to be better.
What is your Instagram handle?
Jonbers Blonde.
Easy.
Jonbers Blonde.
Thank you so much. It has been so lovely speaking to you. And I wondered if maybe could you see us out with, maybe something Irish or something to really end the interview, maybe like an expression or something. What's your favorite Irish-ism?
Oh, do you know what? One thing that always gets said is that if you try something new or if you do something, it always goes, oh, wasn't that something different? That was something different. I love it. I was something different. Something different, like just a curry on a cheese tonight. Something different,
Well, this interview was something different. So thank you.
Yes, it was. Well, that's why I'm saying it.
Thank you so much. And I do hope we see you again on an All-Star. So thank you so much. The wonderful Jonbers Blonde.
Thank you so much. Bye, love.
Bye.